Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my podcast, Belong to the Future. I'm really excited about today's episode because I have with me another exemplary changemaker, Edd Moore. Ed is an award winning primary school teacher at the Green School Bali, and he's making waves in climate and green education. What I love about Ed is his infectious passion for the environment and outdoor learning. He brings such creativity to his classroom, blending gardening, young enterprise, and environmental themes into the curriculum. Every term, and so exciting to note, his students make pledges to help people, animals, or the planet, which empowers them to take action and find their voices in these important issues. Interesting to note that Ed's efforts haven't really gone unnoticed. He's received the Foundation for Environmental Education Teacher Award in 2024 and was named one of the 500 Coronation Champions in 2023 for his work with young people. And the list doesn't end here. And if that wasn't really impressive, under his leadership, Green School Bali has won the Energy Sparks Regional and National Champions titles this year. There is so much more that I can keep going on. But what I really also sort of liked about Ed's profile, and there's so much, his LinkedIn is a treasure trove of, the work that's happening around the globe around green education. But I would want to sort of share is that he also collaborates with organizations like Earth Curbs and the OVO Foundation, sharing his expertise and inspiring the next generation of change makers. Plus, he serves as a trustee at Energy Sparks, helping students and schools fight climate change with innovative education tools. Wow. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation today. Ed has so much insight and enthusiasm to share about the intersection of education and environmental stewardship. Let's jump right in. Thank you, Ed, for joining us on the episode. And like I was talking to you earlier, I was going through your LinkedIn profile and it says that you're empowering communities and schools and educators to be eco ambassadors. And the kind of work that you're doing truly speaks for itself. So I'm very sure that listeners will have a great bit of learning and knowing from the experiences and unique experiences that you bring on the table. So thank you once again for joining us on this episode.
So much.
Without further delay, Ed, I'm really looking forward to ask you some questions. And first and foremost, Ed, given Green School Bali, which is a part of the Green School International, is nothing sort of conventional, right? I was going through the website, and something that really caught my attention was, and I quote, our living curriculum educates for sustainability through community integrated entrepreneurial learning in wall less and nature immersed environment. Can you share more about this, and how does this model of education shape the consciousness and behavior of our children?
Thank you. Yeah, so the curriculum learning is fantastic. It's based around project learning, a thematic, a question where the children answer that question within their class or grade, and everything is intertwined, goes straight down all the other curriculum subjects like a golden thread, and everything's interlinked with that. So you've got your maths, you got your English, everything's interlinked within that project. So children don't, they don't really, it's not named in English and maths. They're doing English and maths within the project that they're looking into. For example, we've been doing about looking at waste across Bali, and the children went out and they did a litter pick to analyze the different types of plastic that they could find, and they did that by doing a tally chart, and then they put that tally chart into a bar chart so then they could analyze more clearly. And that's a great example of using that.
Interesting, very interesting. I heard the word interlinked, right? And I think that's the essence of how you truly sort of engage children without just bucketing things calling them out, saying this is climate education and this is your regular education. So this is so very, very interesting. A follow up question, given your experience as a primary school teacher, I wanted to understand, how do you then make these complex sustainability and biocentric topics understandable for that age group? Because they're young and they're just sort of, starting their education. So how do you do that essentially?
I think young people are great. They're like sponges. They just latch on to everything that you say. They're really inquisitive. Then they become really passionate about wanting to learn more about the environment. They want to get out and about their parents, and they go to places looking at biodiversity, nature, litter picks, water, getting on their bikes and cycling. But always start with scaffolding, making sure that it's accessible to all the learners within the class and within the grade, and pitching it to that level. But most of the time, children, it's amazing what children can do and how passionate they can become about a subject. If you make it fun, interesting, getting outside, getting some outdoor learning embedded within what you're doing, putting in some regenerative phrases and work. Regenerative is so important too, to teach children about nature, but also learning from nature.
Yeah, very true. And, I was just thinking about it as you were talking, how at that age group especially, right, like parents are such an important influencers and shapers how these children, sort of start participating in the process, be it education, be it life in general, right? It was very interesting to sort of read about Green School for grown-ups. Could you throw more light on what is that and how you're getting parents and adults as a part of the whole process? What goes behind that? What was the thinking behind bringing something like that?
Yeah, it's really important to involve, your whole community in a school. And it's particularly a part of Green School. Parents are invited in at all times. They can walk about the campus whenever they like to. Come see some lessons. We invite the parents into the classroom, like for our like sort of stay-ans, to come and see their children's learning, getting involved in projects, in environmental projects, coming to assemblies, coming to events. There's a big event on a Friday where we have a huge whole school assembly, and then parents are, invited to come to that. But then they also, they might put on a stall. They might have an interest for themselves. It's like a big like market, like a environmental market that then happens after. And it's really important that that they come to these things, because we're obviously educating the children, but it's really important that we educate the parents at home too about what they could be doing to help support our mission as well.
Question, and do you have any examples or any incidents that you would want to quote where you saw that the with the whole community coming together, there was a difference between how parents opened up to the whole idea of, I'll not say it climate education, but sustainable education, and how it is required that their children are exposed to such things? Any example or any instance that comes to your mind?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I started getting on my. Well, I basically had a electric bicycle built because I have a huge passion about. I'm always careful about what I eat, what I wear,
Mhm.
and the effects of climate change that has on that. I basically lots of parents and children, and they come by scooter or they come by car. Uh, once I started cycling to Green School and back, there was a definitely behaviour change. Children thinking, "Wow, cool, park Ed's on an electric bicycle, like he's cycling there and back." And
Yeah.
then parents then having that conversation of like, "Actually, I only live 10 minutes away. Perhaps I should be cycling. Perhaps I should be
Mm.
getting on my bike." And then since then, there's been more and more parents and children getting on their bikes to cycle to Green School.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, you're living by example as a teacher for sure, and I think that that makes a huge difference. Coming back to children again, and I realized that how important is how curriculum is structured so that children have a very structured way of approaching a particular subject, right? So what goes behind stitching a nature based curriculum that's not only relevant to the current changing times, but it's also very contextual to where you are? So can you share some light? Can you share your thoughts on that one, please?
Yeah, I think it's very important that we teach children about nature, but they also learn from nature. We're looking at a huge project at the moment, biomimicry, where children get out into nature. They use nature's properties and what they see to then be able to make a product or solve a problem through what nature is telling us. That's the way we're going, with a biomimicry lab that's going to be put into place next year, August next year. Where we can help support many schools in Indonesia, but also across the world, and perhaps be a hub, be a specialist for supporting nature learning.
Interesting. Actually, Ed, I was going through one of your LinkedIn posts, and this reminds me the work that you're doing with the Earth Cubs, the foundation, right? That's something where you sort of build content which is specialized towards a certain section of children, and helping them understand more about climate change, environment. Can you share something about that, because it's very very close to how we are actually designing curriculum slash content literature for children to sort of absorb.
Yeah, so the Earth Cubs, I'm a superhero teacher, and my role is to help support teachers, schools, to embed the environmental uh, curriculum or sustainability or regenerative into their curriculum by giving some top tips of what I've learned over the last 12 years, um, with activities, ideas, that will help embed that within their school curriculum and their ethos. And there are some other Earth Cub superheroes too, and there's going to be some younger versions, which is fantastic. So that's what we need. We need to be showing there's some great youngsters out there doing some fantastic work all over the world, and it'd be great. It's great to showcase what they're doing to then inspire and empower other children to think, oh, if they could do that, well, I could do that too. I want to get involved.
Yes, yes. I just wanted to understand, and because I remember when I was in school back in India here, and I think should be for most parts of the world, our education, a lot of our responses to problems or our perspectives was shaped by the education that we had. Given that we're talking about curriculum and content, have you noticed any conspicuous changes in students' attitudes or interest or curiosity as a result of the shift in the pedagogy or the curriculum itself, right? Any examples that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the children become more acquisitive, more passionate. They feel that they can make a change. I think that's really important. They feel that they can make a difference within the school, but also the community. We had a great example. We had a talk a couple of weeks ago by a well-known group, Kids Against Plastic. That they're based in England, and they talked about their programs that they do, and what they challenged themselves to pick up 1 million pieces of litter over a course of 12 months. And then basically the next day, a whole group of children within my class stood up and said, "Hey, we want to, we've been inspired by Amy and Ella Meek from Kids Against Plastic. We want to make a change. We want to make a difference. We want to start litter picking regularly outside the school grounds to help tidy up the community out there, because that's where we did our tally litter pick, and there were like literally lots of plastic, hidden in the undergrowth, and
Hmm.
that, and then the children went round the school getting people to sign up to their new club, their new litter pick club, and then by the end of the day, they had about 20-25 children signed up. So that's a great example of children, coming together. They've got an idea, they're putting it into practice, and they're making a change.
Yeah, I think great example of how education actually should not be just rote learning. It should actually sort of influence children to go out in the society and make a change, right? And exactly that's what you were talking about. Quick next one is, while we're talking about curriculum pedagogy, I think educators and teachers become an important element of how all of this executes itself or lays itself out, right? So the role of educators like yourself is non-negotiable in the entire process. And I was reading about the Green Educators course, and it got me thinking, if educators need a reskilling themselves, a reschooling of sorts, that keeps them abreast and ahead of what's happening, and hence what they can impart or give to the children. What is the Green School's focus in this area? How do you make sure that the teachers themselves are sort of getting reskilled and are sort of updated on this whole scheme of things?
we have regular staff training. We're forever meeting together to look at what we're doing and how can we improve, how can we get better, what's going on in the world environmentally and particularly locally, how can we implement that within our teaching and going forwards. Um, we've got great practitioners who share a wealth of knowledge, who are forever ahead of what they're doing within their specialities. There's many skilled people across Green School who are then feeding in to this to help support everybody and support certain projects within our school. And then it's important to involve the community too, because there's the wealth of knowledge out there as well and support that can help our curriculum as well. So that's also important as well. And the green educators course is a fantastic course to help support teachers. I think that's what's missing across the world as well. CPD for teachers in this climate change, in regenerative teaching. Teachers are worried. They're scared. They don't know how to go about teaching something like this. And the Green Educators course is a great foundation to help teachers and children along the way.
Interesting. Just one question, given this is something that's happening in Bali and that, Green School Bali is driving this, are you seeing this kind of model of education being adapted at any other geographies or any other places that you're perhaps aware of? And if there's anything that you would want to share from that perspective, that, there is a necessity for this kind of model to be adapted more and more so that children are far more exposed to what they can do perhaps for the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. There's some great work going on across the world, from Bali to South Africa. We've obviously got our sister schools in South Africa and New Zealand doing some great, the model there, works well. Same for in Dubai and Thailand, Singapore, even in England as well, would you believe? There's some great schools in the United Kingdom that are doing some fantastic work based, on something similar like this model, which is based around a project called the Harmony Project, which was based on a book by King Charles, A New Way of Looking at Our World, and it was basically looking at seven principles of nature, and it's really interesting um, how that project has evolved over the years, and over the last sort of 10, 15 years, and how that links so well to um, Green School and what's happening here in Bali. But yeah, that's another great example of a curriculum that is very, very similar to to Green School. And I've got the Harmony Project. There was a great project where a school rewilded an area. So basically, the children went out. They identified the flowers that were
Mhm.
living around them in the school in there, and then they put together a nature journal. And then they wanted to go a bit step further, so they asked the Duchy of Cornwall that owned the land, if they could rewild this horrible bit of land, which was just empty, just like soil. They went out and they picked wildflower seeds from other wildflowers. They sowed them on this land, and then it came up this beautiful wildflower meadow. But it didn't stop there, because then they raised some money in the community to put together an information board with a QR code to help then educate the community of what wildflowers, trees, insects were living around them. So then they passed on that knowledge, and then they became the experts. The children became the experts, and they ended up giving guided tours to organisations, parents, children, staff, members of the community. And there was so much from that: writing, maths, their language improved, and that's a great example of how the Green School curriculum is being pushed out, but then changed slightly different with the Harmony Project. Something that other schools should look at. The Harmony Project is a fantastic curriculum base.
Yeah, interesting. And I was talking to, in fact, somebody a few days back, and I think what you said truly resonates with that conversation is it's not just the parents who need to be engaged, it's just the entire community overall. And if children can be the brand ambassadors of, something that needs to change in the society, it sort of is the cherry on the cake, right? It gets me to another question. Something on the Climate Clever Schools program, and I was reading this perhaps a couple of days back, that the work that you're doing. Anything that you would want to share around this, because it seems very, very interesting.
Yeah, so the Climate Clever Schools is run by Amy and Ella Meek of Kids Against Plastic. They're fantastic sisters who have been leading on environmental change for the past, sort of 10 years. And they first obviously started with Kids Against Plastic, Plastic Clever Schools.
Mm.
And I've been working on with them to produce content for their program. And I put together a program on how schools can improve their biodiversity in their school grounds, so sort of step by step with activities and ideas and projects that they can do to sort of to help out. And biodiversity is a huge passion of mine.
I think there's a surge of some really great work happening across the geographies around this area, and we've covered a lot of ground today. As we're closing the episode, anything that you would like to leave our listeners with? Any instances, any suggestions, any recommendations, anything that comes to your mind around how truly education is an important element for us to sort of shape how children see and perceive, because climate anxiety is something which is very, very real, and I think education can truly sort of help us address that in a positive manner. Anything that you would want to leave our listeners with as we close the episode?
Yeah, I think the schools setting out on their journey for the very first time, it is very daunting, but you know, look to doing one project, getting a group of children together to sort of lead on that across the school. That's really important, and just try and do one thing at a time. Don't try and do too much. A nice project across the school is definitely a good starting point to inspire children to want to make a change. Um, and that could be from reducing waste, which is always a great one, to biodiversity, to try and encourage more children and adults to get on their bikes and cycle to school. So yeah, there's a great, that's always a great starting point.
Small doable steps at wherever, whichever place that you are, so that that becomes a starting point for bigger, greater things to happen in your community. Great advice, Ed. Thank you once again for joining us today. It was a great conversation. I think teachers like yourself are making tangible difference in how children and young adults are going to view the world of tomorrow. Thank you once again. This was a lovely conversation.